these notes. There we go. All right, we are rolling. I'm actually just going to record this as a backup just because. We are rolling in 3, 2. Oh, you know what? I know how I'm going to do this. 3, 2. Hey guys, Bobby Roast Beef here. I'm back in the Disco Dungeon. We're going to do some talking today. This show has a couple of difficult conversations to have, but I think that that trivia fanatics really, whether you're a player or whether you're a host, each of our segments here is going to help you out to have the best sort of experience you possibly can have. We'll see you guys in a bit. We'll be back in about 10 seconds.
10. 5.
All righty, guys. Bobby Roast Beef here. Jigs and Bigs. I just finished recording Jigs and Bigs. No, it's the 10-second podcast. I got so much stuff happening at one time. Anyway, I got to tell you, before we get into our topics here, an amazing show for the last episode. It was awesome having Catherine, Lindsay, and all their friends on as the virtual team. So we appreciate them coming out and being part of the show, having a good time. You know, it was really interesting, and I'm interested in doing more of those. I really do want to feature some of the teams that regularly play. So if you're listening to the show, and I know we've got some traction now, some folks are actually listening here. If you're listening to the show, I need you to do me a favor. If you would like to go head to head against maybe the folks that are part of your team, or maybe even up against a team that you kind of have a little beef with, you want to call them out and have a playful, fun little heads up style trivia game, let's go ahead and do it. I'm more than excited to make that happen. So here's what I want you to do. Just reach out to me. I'm fairly easy to get in touch with. You can find me you can go to bobbyroastbeef.com and just quite simply just use the contact form right there. You can also shoot me a DM on Instagram, and you can also send me a Facebook message as well. I respond to all that stuff, but I would love to set something up. And I've got a nice little system that makes it kind of nice and easy to work out. And it's pretty flexible overall for the vast majority of the time. It's pretty flexible and a lot of fun. So if you're interested and you'd like to play one of these fun little games, go ahead and reach out to your boy Bobby Roast Beef. Following on top of that, big news. All right, so there's a couple of things happening locally that are very, very exciting. First and foremost, though, the biggest one is the Battle of the Tofu Curtain. The Battle of the Tofu Curtain is live. It's happening. It's on Eventbrite. You can go to Eventbrite right now and search Battle of the Tofu Curtain, but I'm going to put a link in the description of this show as well. So go ahead. You can check that out. Tickets are available. Here's the thing. I can't post this on social media or anything like that, but I want to give a heads up. Not only can you get tickets online at Eventbrite, which makes it super convenient and everything, but there is a service charge for these tickets. If you're at one of my trivia events and you can pay in cash, you can avoid that service fee. So just something to keep in mind. If you want to save a few bucks on your ticket purchase, you can go ahead and do that. Now, let's go over the details. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to call up my screen right here, the Eventbrite tab for all of this stuff, all of the fun. And we'll go ahead, we'll pull this up and go over some of the details. Like I said, it is all happening on February the 21st. It's a Friday night. And we have some fun stuff happening. We have like I said, the Battle of the Tofu Curtain. It's happening at the Elks in Chicopee. Oh, we have some folks ordering tickets. This is fantastic. I love that. Let's go over the details, guys. All right. I'll show the entire event here. You know what? Maybe I'll do that. Let's just show the entire screen. Let's move this out of the way. There we go. There we go. Let's do this. We'll just show you the whole process. We'll explain everything about it to make it nice and easy for you. Share screen, and there we go. Boom. Just like that. Let's take a look. All right, folks. So here's what we're dealing with right here. The Battle of the Tofu Curtain. This is like the trivia tournament that the Western Massachusetts area has been asking for. And it's pitting county against county to determine which is the most clever. Now, in the grand scheme of things, the Battle of the Tofu Curtain is going to be a monthly gathering. Every month we'll get together and teams will be able to purchase tickets to attend this. And the way it works is there are two scoreboards. We have one scoreboard that represents all of the team affiliations. So when you purchase a ticket for the Tofu Curtain, you'll notice, let's go scroll all the way down here to get this out of the way. Right here where it says tickets, right there are two different types of tickets. There's one ticket for Hampshire County, one ticket for Hampden County. Your players in your team just have to purchase the right ticket. I'm going to give you a heads up that if you make a mistake or you forgot which county was what or something like that, I can fix it day of. So it's not really a huge deal, but this gives me a rough idea, at least going into it, what this looks like. So the way it works is like this. The first battle is happening on Friday, February the 17th. Starts at 7 p.m. with the sign-in round. Doors are at 6:30. And we're going to wrap up probably by 9:30 at the absolute latest. I'm targeting it to actually be more like a regular trivia night and end at 9. Happens at the Chicopee Elks Lodge. It's a lodge number 1849. That's in Granby Road in Chicopee. And you can purchase your tickets and do your whole deal. Let's go through the lineup, the agenda. So doors will open at 6:30. What I really kind of want there is just, I will be at the ticket booth to kind of process some stuff and get people in there. I'm going to actually be leaning on some family members to help me out quite a bit in making this happen. Now, then we're going to do our 30-minute window from 7 to 7:30. That's your opportunity to get connected to play, have some snacks, maybe a drink or two, settle in, do your thing. Same thing as a typical trivia night. 7:30, we're aiming to start our game. We plan to end at 9 p.m. And then as soon as we wrap things up, we've got prizes to give away. Now, let's talk about the how the Tofu Curtain, the battle, actually plays out here. So when you make your purchase of your tickets, we're going to have a list of the teams that represent the Hampshire County team and the ones that represent the Hampden County team. I'm going to be assigning colors to each county. So the Hampden County teams will be grouped together. There will be two scoreboards that I will toggle between. The primary one will be of all of the individual teams. The scoreboard that you see at a typical trivia night that's going to be the scoreboard that we're going to base our prizes off of for the battle, everything else. Now, I will let after each round, I'm going to look at the averages and figure which is the county that is in the best position. And again, this is nice because it's all worked out on averages. So if Hampden County has 7 teams playing and Hampshire County only has 4 teams playing, it's just the average score between those teams. And keep in mind, you might have some teams on you that might affect your average in a negative way. So it's all in good fun. What we're going to do is track those scores throughout the year. The plan is to go February through November with one a month. I'm going to try to do that. That's my goal, is to do 10. But regardless, even if we do less than that, we'll still have a point tally of the two counties doing battle in 2025. The end of the year in December, I will award the winning county. They'll get to display either what I'm hoping to do is just a giant 6-foot, super annoying trophy or a plaque if space is more of an issue to the event establishment that has typically like the busiest nights. So right now, that would be Nathan Bills if Hampden County were to win it, and it would be the Toasted Owl if Hampshire County were to win it. And then the next year we could go on the next way. I think we're going to see more and more people get involved with it. Now, there are prizes for individual teams, and that's every single battle will be awarding prizes for the top 5 teams, and we're coming out hot. We have a handful of really, really fantastic companies, local businesses. That's what this is all about. So what we've got for prizes, well, I can show you that too. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's see if I can put it right here on screen. So let's go ahead. We'll take a look at the screen right now here, guys. Let's see. Which window do we want? This one. There we go. Take a look at this. So this is the sponsor list right here. This is our list of event sponsor or prize sponsors that have confirmed. We've got prizes from Toasted Owl and East Village Tavern. They're giving gift cards that will be utilizing in prize packs for gift cards to various local businesses. We've also got prizes that are coming from Boston Bud Factory. Frank over at Boston Bud Factory wants to be involved. Plus, we've got prizes from TS Mobile Accessories over in Springfield on Allen Street. I will tell you, this is one hell of a prize, and this is a first place prize only. It is
it's a remote car starter,
and you're not going to want to miss out on that. If you're a New Englander and you have been at it this winter, and maybe you've had it this winter with getting in your car when it's ice cold, a remote car starter can make your life that much better. And even in the summertime too, don't forget that you can have your AC cranking and not have to get into a hot, sticky, disgusting car, right from, wherever you're out with. So definitely, we got some stuff coming along, and I've got a bunch more prize sponsors that are just not confirmed yet. Once I get confirmation from them, we're going to have a bunch more stuff, and you're not going to want to miss out. It's going to be a fun time. Let's go ahead and we'll shift gears, guys. We're going to go ahead. We're going to start out this week's show with our host corner. We're going to have a little conversation here. It might be a little eye-opening for the players too. Today's host corner segment is really about knowing your value. I have a lot of conversations with hosts all the time, and we talk about the money side of this, and amongst the speed quizzing hosts and really a lot of people that do this business, lots of times folks will avoid that conversation because they just feel it's inappropriate. But the fact of the matter is, like, you can really get an eye-opening look at what your actual value is in the grand scheme of things. So here's the thing. There are a lot of people who really, they undervalue themselves, and they even undervalue the speed quizzing product, to be perfectly honest. You want to price yourself based on all of the moving parts, and don't undervalue speed quizzing or yourself as an entertainer. Trust me, you don't want to make that mistake. You want to factor in the value of the gear that's used, in order to do your events, as well as your expenses, your time, and you have to include all the time. So your promotion too. If you're working to promote your stuff, what are you doing? You got to factor in for that. And then most of all, your experience. Because every year or two that you're doing this, you're learning so much more and you're developing more as a host, essentially building your value. And if you've got, the references to be able to make it happen, then, it's a good spot to be in, to be self-aware, and know what you can realistically charge, what the market's like. Now, a lot of people talk about markets, and that's a different sort of animal. And we're going to talk a little bit about that here. But, what I came up with here was this. If you're wondering how you can know if you're earning your keep, determining your relationship with an establishment that you're working out of, the best way to do that, you could determine the average amount that a typical person entering in that bar or restaurant is going to spend. What's the amount that they're generally gonna spend? I will say that a good measure is to factor the average dollar amount of a menu item, and then like 2 drinks, realistically. I think that's relatively average. 1 menu item and 2 drinks. So if you say, like, in my local area, in my market right now, a typical menu item at most of my venues is about $15. And the general price for a drink is about $8. That's going from like really, really low end of the spectrum, like, well mixed drink or something like that, versus some higher tier stuff. So there's a little bit of wiggle room depending on what it is that they're drinking, but generally 2 drinks. So if you put that together, that average person would spend $31 walking into an establishment. $31. And if you break that down by players, right? And if you were to have, say, 25 players, the average intake for that night would be $775 of intake based around trivia. The people that come in and are playing, or the people that are in there when you're doing your game. Like, that's the thing you have to keep in mind. That's the money that's coming in. If you charge the average speed quizzing host rate as of last year, as of 2024, the typical speed quizzing host is charging in the ballpark of about $250 these days. Inflation is crazy, and a lot of folks upped their rates, and some folks did it significantly. So the house is still going to be making over $500 in sales. And keep in mind, those are sales that they wouldn't have made in theory unless they had you there. So they're still making additional sales. In fact, they're more than doubling what it is that you're taking in. So it's a realistic number. It is a realistic number. There are always outliers, though, with the average. You get some tables that show up and they don't eat or drink anything. They sit at a table, they play trivia, they leave. That's it. Or they sit there and they just hydrate. They get the water and they don't take care of their servers and bartenders. And you're going to hear about the other side of this later. There are those people. But with that said, there are also the other end of it, of the outliers. So there's the other end of folks that show up and they go all out. Like they go all out and they're ordering an appetizer or a couple of appetizers for the table. They're ordering each an entree. They're having multiple drinks, sometimes doing a round of shots in there as well. Like for some folks, this is a night out. And that's why you can only really target the average. As a rough estimate, know that you're probably making them a little bit more in all actuality. Unless you have a real problem with people coming in and just drinking water, then then they need to figure out how they're going to handle it. So yeah, focus on the average individual consumer and what their typical spend is, and determine how many people you're bringing out normally. And look at the long game too. Everybody's going to have those nights where you're only going to have half the teams that you normally have. But next week, hey, it'll be busier. Everybody's going to have those nights where maybe it's just super slow. There's something going on in town or something, and you're hedging your bet. Or the other end of it too. Maybe you're in a tourist area and you just constantly have new faces constantly coming around. There are exceptions to every single situation, but this is why if you focus on the average and just look at that, you'll have a nice, solid understanding of how you're performing for your establishment. Because ultimately, they're our customer. So I also want to round this out, this segment of Host Corner with this last bit. When it comes to your records, don't count teams. Count the players, count the individual people in the room. And the reason why I say that is I recently had a game where it was a Thursday night game and then a Friday night game. The Thursday night game, I had 12 teams. The bar had no open seats. It was packed. It was full. There was no other way to put people in here. Is this a small spot? It's not the smallest. It's definitely not the smallest. It's probably right in the middle, to be perfectly honest with you. It's not the smallest, but 12 teams, these are large teams. A lot of them had several players, 5, 6, 7 members at one team. Were there a couple that were solo? Actually, in this situation, I don't think we had any one teams that were solo individual teams. Everybody was a group, and that's what I'm getting at. The next night on Friday, we had 12 teams, and I had 14 people in the room, because only a couple of those teams had another person in their party. And I know that a lot of hosts will use that. Well, it looks better on the screen if there's a bunch of different teams. I understand that. But it is really, really difficult to say, well, the average team size is this, and they're spending whatever. Count the heads, figure out the average spend, and then you'll have a little bit of a good idea on if you hold value for the establishment that you're working for. I'm telling you, take a look at those things and you'll be able to get a good idea of what you can realistically charge, for your services. Now, let's go ahead and so that's just something I wanted to touch on right here, because it happens all the time. And this is nothing that speed quizzing can tell you. Like, I'm not saying this as somebody who works for tech support for speed quizzing or anything like that. I'm saying this as a host that works 5 to 6 days a week. And I do this full time as my career. And I'm saying this because if you invest in yourself, not with money, not with anything, but with a little bit of planning and a little bit of effort, you're going to go significantly further as far as reaching that next level of being able to earn your keep and make this a profitable business on your end. So For what it's worth, you guys take it for what it's worth. I hope you can apply it, and if it works, let me know in the comments if you think I'm crazy. I would love to have a conversation with that, and if the conversation goes any further, we should have that conversation on the show. But it's just something that I think, as somebody who's got over 10 years experience hosting this game and making it my full-time career, I feel like you guys also need to know this, that you don't have to give away the farm just because. Let's go ahead. We're going to talk shop. We're going to talk about the player side of things coming up. All right, folks. So this is an interesting little segment, maybe a little bit of a difficult conversation to have from the player aspect. So we're going to talk here about a little thing called
player etiquette.
Now, I'm not, there isn't any one necessary thing that kind of popped into my mind that made me think this is where this show should go. But the more I thought about it, I said, if my goal is to have new folks come and check this out, and if they're interested, I'd like to set them up to have the best experience they can. So let's go over sort of all the details here. So starting out, like, specifically, like, this is one that's really big for first timers, and also, like, if you haven't played in a while or something like that. First timers that are attending like their initial game arrive in time to allow for connection and potential obstacles, some difficulties to get connected. It seems like these days, more and more games, I have somebody deciding, that was there the entire time I was there announcing we were doing trivia. I have somebody deciding within the last 3 to 5 minutes that they want to play. So I hand them some instructions, and in some instances where I'm tight on time, I can't add another song and just go and help them out. I have to, here you go. We'll go ahead. We'll see what we can do. Some folks have actually approached me looking to play while I was in the process of reading the instructions, and I just can hand them some instructions and get best of luck. We'll get to you at round 2, because there are folks that are showing up that have played that, have a schedule. They're kind of used to how this works. So if you're going out to play trivia and you're a first timer, like, just don't roll in there when the question 1 begins, because what's ultimately going to happen, teams that have never played before, or who just like connect a few minutes before the first round, they're providing an unnecessary source of stress on the host, and different hosts are going to handle that differently. I don't think there's a right way to do it. It's just, you're going to process it and get through it. The other one, and I think this is a big one, if you're a speed quizzing player, don't interrupt the host mid-game. Don't interrupt the host mid-game. If there was an issue with a question or anything like that, all of these hosts have access to be able to make adjustments to the scoreboard if they want to, and maybe they're telling you they don't, and that's fine too. Here's the thing. If you interrupt a host, mid-game, you're essentially, you have to understand that you're basically throwing them off from being able to do their job. Their job is to keep the entirety of the bar entertained and engaged, and if we have to stop to address you complaining that the human eyes aren't an organ, then it slows the whole process of the game down for everybody else, and quite literally affects everybody else's experience. It's kind of like main character syndrome, to be perfectly honest. It really is. When you're, in a group of players that are all playing this game, you're on a team, you're having a good time, and then you stop and you're like,
hey, Mr. Quizmaster, needles on a conifer aren't leaves, man. That question was wrong.
It's more times than not, we'll be more than happy to have a conversation with you about you if we want to. But as the host of the show, it's on us to make that decision. Some hosts like myself, if somebody interrupts me mid-game, there's an app for that. It's called a bitch tax. And if somebody interrupts mid-game about something stupid, I will take 20 points off their score for the interruption. I like to tell my players that there's a right way and a wrong way to approach me. And it's always when the mic is off, when it is shut off. It's not in my hand. It's not live. Feel free to approach me about a question. If you can make your point and argue it and it is logistically makes sense, I may give you the points for that. I may not. It's ultimately it's up to my decision and to maintain control of the whole game. So different hosts, they're gonna handle it their own way, and it's their game. They're the one running the game. It's if that's the one thing, it's just respect the host and the way that they do their thing, because there's a million trivia hosts out there doing this game. There's thousands of speed quizzing hosts out there. You're going to find the one that you like the best. I hope that it's Bobby Roast Beef, but maybe it's not. Who knows? Let's get to the next one right here. Oh, this is a good one. This is a good one. So if you're going out to trivia night, and this is for everybody, please actually be a patron of the establishment that you're going. While trivia is a lot of fun, it's a great event. The entire thing is truly about business. The idea is that you're holding an event regularly to drive sales on a day or during a time where the bar or restaurant typically would be really slow. And I'll explain a little bit further why this is important in just a bit. But as a trivia host, while we certainly deal most of the players like one-to-one and answering questions and with speed quizzing, with getting folks connected and any of their questions with how the game works, while we do deal with the players and we're curating that experience to be the best it can be, it's the establishment that's actually my client. Technically they're the one that I have to answer to if there's a question about something, or we have folks that aren't patrons that are just showing up to play trivia, things like that. So while if you're taking up a seat at the bar, or even worse, if you're taking up an entire table and you're not ordering anything at all, it makes it really difficult for the establishment that's hiring us to really see the value in having us or any type of entertainment at all, any sort of real activity, to tell you the truth, in there. So, part of it is like, actually, yes, be a patron, and there are hosts that are out there that will offer up, bonus points for ordering, a certain amount of whatever, or buying a specific something. Some people do this and hate it. I do. I don't like it. It is one of my venues. I am not into it at all, but they have an agreement with this one brand, and it's out of my control, but things are going to change soon. You also may have folks that are just like, well, I can't control what they're eating and drinking. That is true. As a trivia host, I've had experience where I've had, managers say, oh, hey, they're not really, ordering so much. And I'll say, you've got to do these things. Take advantage of those 10-minute breaks in between rounds to make sure that servers are getting there and are on it. If the service staff is dialed, and I mean dialed, and I am blessed to work with some that are just so freaking good, you'll see them just go around the room and get drink refills, take other food orders, run food to tables during that 10-minute window. Some of them, the ones that have been doing it for years now, they have got it down, and it's a good thing. I think it actually makes for a great experience for the player too. I think the players actually really appreciate that, because you don't have your server coming in like mid question going like,
hey, can I get you another Moscow Mule?
Which you very well might want one, but that time isn't necessarily the right time. The other thing is this. So anyway, let me wrap that all up in a nice bow. Yes, actually be a patron. Coming in, and like we said in the host segment about what the average spend is at these places, we're not calculating for individuals that are just like showing up and grabbing a water and just taking off afterwards. I do want to mention a couple of things with all this. And actually, this is going to come full circle with the next one. When it comes to hosts and different establishments, there's no set operation for how to deal with this. Some restaurant owners and management are like, look, I don't want to ruin somebody's experience coming out here. Like, I hope that they're going to go and purchase something. And I think that most folks that are in the industry feel the same way. They hope that eventually they're going to get it. Nobody wants to talk to a team and go like,
hey, man, it's great seeing you here every week, but it would be really sweet if you would try the chicken wings or a beer or, anything that you want.
And I feel that there's a lot of people who are not afraid, but uncomfortable with having that conversation with somebody in their establishment. They don't want to make anybody feel off in any sort of a way. But I'll tell you what, sometimes you just need to. And it can be a difficult line to walk, you know? So it's just one of those things. It has an effect down the entire line. Now, the last one on here, and this is the portion of it that really sort of got me fired up in this, is this.
Tip your servers and bartenders appropriately.
Strap in because it's going to get serious. All right. Here's the deal, folks. There isn't a single venue I have ever worked in. And keep in mind, I have worked in a couple dozen different venues at this point. There isn't a single venue where I haven't heard from someone at least stiffing a server or bartender on their tab. In fact, it's happened in certain situations with some players where it's happened multiple times. And one specific situation, I stepped in and actually paid this guy's tab and said, well, now that I've done that, I can tell him,
do not come back until you can pay me what you owe me.
Spoiler alert, I've never been paid for that. But there's been situations like that. And here's the deal, okay? I'm going to talk to you about the economics in like the tipping. It's not tipping culture. It's the way that this industry is kind of just created. So the way it works is simple. There is a standard gratuity rate that you should be adding. That standard really is about 18%. 20% is a decent tip. 15% is a little bit low. And, you know, there's never been any type of a bartender or server who's actually said like, hey, would you say something to this a-hole or whatever, or blah, 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 blah. Oftentimes they're asking me, are there any things that you can do to sort of like, you know, help people along? And you guys may have noticed that every once in a while I'll ask a question about like a percentage about like, oh, if your bill was such and such, how much was this? And if those are there just to prove a little example of what the standard tipping procedure is. The easy way to figure out 20%, 20%, that's pretty much it. But what a lot of folks don't understand is this. So peel back the beef curtain here and explain a little bit. So recently, this last election, and I am not getting into politics or anything. I don't give a shit. They're all crooks. That's all you got to know. Here's the deal. There was a question on our ballot regarding switching over service employees to a solid state, or what was it, the state minimum wage. And here's the deal. What's currently going on in Massachusetts, and in other states, it may be a different animal, but in our state here specifically, if a server, a tipped employee, does not make enough in their tips to equal minimum wage, the restaurant pays them so that that's the minimum that they're at least making. Now, a lot of folks wonder, they're like, oh, well, they should be paying their people more and blah, 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 blah. That's true. They should. Absolutely. But with tips, they can. If they did bring their tip there, or if they did change out the payout and create it as an hourly rate, you would see a difference in the price tag on your menus. Okay. That's if they kept everything else. But guess what's going to happen first?
Bye, Bobby Roast Beef.
See, most bars and restaurants are going to say, well, I need a server or a bartender to serve the customers every single hour that I'm open. But I don't need a trivia night. I don't need a band. I don't need a DJ. I don't need a karaoke host. I don't need, I don't know, any other sort of entertainment. Like, I don't need to spend money on these things, to have that going out, or not even I don't need to. I can't afford to now, which is an interesting situation because you could also argue that, well, if there is business coming in, that's a good investment. And here's the dirty little secret.
Bar and restaurant owners do what the fuck they want.
I'm just saying, they do. It's their place. They make the call. Are they comfortable investing money into entertainment to bring more people in? Does that mean that they're going to have to drive up their prices that much more to compensate? Most likely, yeah. Are some bar owners and restaurant owners going to be comfortable doing that? Some are and some won't. So know this, that if you're not tipping your servers and waitress, you're in a way downstream affecting my longevity in that establishment. You're putting it at risk. So that's why I'm just saying, when I say tip your servers and bartenders, these folks bust their ass And I hope that they make, I hope they're making your experience fabulous. And you know what? I've been lucky enough to work with some amazing industry folks, and I love them dearly. Genuine respect. Love you guys. But I will tell you this, there are some bad eggs. It's happened. I've seen it myself. And the best thing you can do at that point is speak to somebody there, the manager on duty. Make a phone call during the day at a slow time if you need to, something like that. Choosing to stiff a bartender or a server is it's awful. It's terrible. And you're not sending a message, because those folks, they don't give a shit, especially in Massachusetts, when it's going to come out of the owner's back, out of the owner's pocket, so that they can pay them that minimum wage. You're not educating them. You're not giving them tough love or anything like that. That's not what it is. And then there's folks like me who know that you folks are out there, and I try to tip even more than normal to offset that. I have a feeling there's a lot more people that are like me than I realize. I have a feeling about that, because some of you guys do great and you take good care of your servers and bartenders. Like I said, we're talking right now about the outliers. That's what I think we're talking about. And if we're not in your situation, if you're a speed quizzing host and you're not we're not talking about the outliers, you got a whole other thing you got to worry about here, because that should only be the outliers. It shouldn't be the majority of your average players. But that's what I'm saying, folks. Take care of your server and bartenders. You can't afford to go out you can't afford to tip. You can't afford to go out for dinner. That's really what it gets down to. So it is part of it. It's just something to keep in mind. Like, this is the economy that we have. We can only do the best that we can with it, and it's really messed up. I do want to, before I get off this soapbox, I want to explain a little bit of a scenario for you guys. So I want you to imagine a small bar restaurant where maybe I'm hosting trivia. Okay. And there is a handful of servers that are on duty that night. And maybe the night's not crazy. Maybe normally we're doing like 30 teams. And on this one night, we've got like 19. It's nothing crazy, but we're just not doing as well as normal. Maybe there's something going on in town. Who knows? And we have 3 different servers. And let's just say this one server is like, well, I have this one table. I don't want you to cut me yet. But then that one table stiffs them. Well, now that server waited their entire shift to essentially not be paid, really is what it gets down to. Or maybe it was 2 tables and one of those tables stiffed them on a tip. If you screw a server on their gratuity, it's a shit sandwich that you're serving up to everybody in the industry at the end of the day. That's really what it gets down to. So I can't put enough emphasis on that. I say it every single round, in between rounds. Take care of your servers and bartenders. They are the real front line here where we are having our trivia event. So that is that. I hope you guys got a little bit of value about that. This is a much shorter episode, but I feel like this was a really solid one. Remember that the Battle of the Tofu Curtain is coming up. It's in February, on the 21st of February, Friday. Doors are at 6:30. Sign-in begins at 7 p.m. And we're going to have ourselves a great time. You could win yourself a remote car starter from TS Mobile Accessories, plus a bunch of other awesome gift cards and prizes from area local businesses. I am working diligently to try to get as many great prizes for you as I can. Anyway, folks, that's going to wrap this one up here. I hope you had a good one. We will see you at a trivia night. Remember, BobbyRoastBeef.com. You can check out my entire schedule, and we'll be seeing you guys around these parts soon again in the future. Yeah. Have yourself a great week, everyone. I'll see you at trivia. Take care.